Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Twitch.tv's Tempered Chaos. Find me on Instagram, Twitter, and of course here on YouTube as The Nor You Know. You're joining me today for part 2 of episode 2 of How to Get Started Streaming series. Okay, so by now you're an expert and I don't have to tell you what this is all about. So we're going to talk about our first product in this video. And I say product because it's kind of really a jumble of 3 different things. So when you think about lighting, you should always be thinking about cameras, and you should also think about a green screen, right? All those things kind of play off one another. I'm including one link apiece. So that means I'm going to give you a link to a green screen and a link to some sort of lighting that you need. You should ask yourself though, when it comes to lighting, how much lighting do I want? What color temperature do I want to execute? What type of options do I want? And how many different angles do I want to utilize? That'll sort of help you select the camera, maybe depending on the camera that you pick. It might be good enough for those settings. And then of course, if you want to implement a green screen, then obviously you're going to want to pay attention to lighting because it'll make or break your green screen. And it can make it completely useless if you don't pay enough attention. But if you got this type of setup that I'm going to provide you links to, it should be pretty simple. We're going to give you a pop-up green screen and some pre-set up lighting that you really can't go wrong with. Okay, so next up on our list, we're going to talk about display. More specifically, let's talk about gaming monitors or monitors in general. So there are plenty of monitors out there, and I'm personally a Samsung fanboy. So what you're going to get a link to is a Samsung curved monitor. Now, one thing to note is that if you're using a gaming console like a PlayStation or an Xbox, you don't really have to worry about the type of monitor too much. Remember, these are generally made for TVs, and so a monitor is quite the step up in that regard. However, if you're building a dedicated PC and you're using dedicated graphics card or video card for that sort of output, you might want to read into monitors a little bit more, right? The type of panel, maybe an IPS. If you're looking at adaptive frame rates or maybe color thresholds, are you thinking about the type of resolution that you need? And one of the important ones is response rate or refresh rate. Those are things that you want to pay attention to, so I recommend doing a little bit of reading on that. But again, if you're gaming on a console, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, this next topic is going to seem really simple. Microphones. And it actually can be really simple. It just depends on how detailed you want to get. So if you're looking at spending over $100 on a microphone, then you should probably look into some details about that microphone, right? So how quiet is the room that you're streaming or gaming from? How quiet of a talker are you? Me personally, I'm actually a relatively low volume speaker, so I've got to keep a mic really close to me no matter what type of mic it is, right? And adjusting the gain way up on your mic, that doesn't actually help you in most situations because you've got to use what's right. Anyway, different conversation for a different day. The 2 mics that I'm going to give you links to is going to be the Blue Yeti, which is an all-around good mic that's actually used by a lot of streamers out there. And then I'm going to give you the Elgato Wave, right? So these are 2 really popular mic choices, and I think net they're both around the same cost. So again, if you're looking at that spending that 100+ range on a microphone, those are the 2 that I'd recommend. If not, and you think you can get away with something cheaper, then by all means go that route. Whether that's a long-term or short-term solution is really up to you. Okay, so as we approach the end of our video, our second to last product set that we're going to focus on is going to be streaming software. 3 links that I'm going to provide you with, and that's going to be Obs Studio, Streamlabs OBS, and XSplit. All 3 of these are actually pretty good, but they all come with their own feature set and functionality. Some of them, actually all of them, are free, but some of them have certain limitations, right? So something like XSplit will only allow you to broadcast a certain resolution and a watermark unless you pay for additional functionality. OBS Studio is actually really good. It's kind of the OG of broadcaster software, but you'll notice that it's not as easy to use as you would expect these days. In to save the day is going to be Streamlabs OBS, which you'll notice has OBS in its name, and it's actually built upon the source code from OBS, but has more features and functionality sprinkled in with a revamped UI to try to make it a little bit easier to use. There's other different types of streaming software that's out there, things that are going to overlay on top of your Xbox directly if you're not using a capture card. These aren't necessarily what these are used for, although they may. I just have not experimented with them in that fashion. So take a look at those links that I'm going to provide you, read up a little bit about what you need, and be sure to pick the one that's going to be more suited for your needs. Okay, so what you've all been waiting for, the answer to what is the meaning of life. Okay, actually, wrong episode. Okay, so what you're actually waiting for is to talk about the computer, right? You want to figure out if you want a laptop or if you're going to need a PC. By the way, PCs aren't as intimidating as it may seem, but the quickest way to getting an answer whether you can get away with a laptop or a PC is to ask yourself, how much is the computer going to do? So what I mean by that is the computer going to be running your games plus streaming software? Meaning, is it going to be more resource intensive, or is it going to be running just your streaming software, less resource intensive, right? So when we look at something that is resource intensive, means that it's going to need larger processing power, more RAM, more drive space usually, and maybe even a dedicated video card depending on what you're doing, right? So if you ask yourself, am I just streaming or am I streaming and gaming from that device? That should start pointing you in the right direction. Now, there are pros and cons to both, right? When you look at a laptop, you're thinking to yourself, okay, this thing is portable, which is a pro. But the con is that a laptop is all bundled. You can't really change anything after you buy it. It's for the most part said and done, right? It comes with minimal USB ports, minimal peripheral ports, and over time, we're talking a few years here, you're gonna wanna upgrade that laptop, which usually means throwing the laptop out and getting a new laptop, right? That's just how electronics work. Where a PC, on the other hand, it's much more customizable. Once you build it, you can still end up replacing the RAM in it or the hard drive in it or even the processor in it if you're savvy enough. Okay, so a few recommendations regardless of whether you go with a PC or if you go with a laptop. Pay attention to the processor. You want something that's going to be a quad core, maybe in the neighborhood of 2.5-ish to 3-ish gigahertz of processing power, right? That's really important. These days with Windows 10, which I'm guessing is what you're going to end up with, you want something probably with at least 12 gigs of RAM. That OS chews into a lot of RAM, not to mention that you're going to need RAM to cache a lot of other things. Different conversation as well. Drive space. Do you plan on keeping your streams for an extended period of time? Would you want to offload those to a hard drive, or do you not plan on keeping those at all? So minimum space for a drive I would recommend is 256 gigs, right? Also, I would suggest and highly recommend that drive is a solid state drive. You don't really want a spinning drive anymore. And then if you're gonna go with a PC, then you might want to outfit it with a sound card or something that you can separate ports. It's gonna get really particular when you're trying to add a microphone and a headset and all these other things that you want to use. And once you get your Discord stood up and you start chatting with people, trust me, those things are gonna come in handy. And then last but not least is going to be external display, right? So see what you like using the most and maybe see what monitors you already have on hand if you want to repurpose them, or if you're using a television from the PC, right? Popular ports are going to be HDMI, of course, and then DisplayPort. You know that DisplayPort does not carry audio, HDMI does, so that may be a benefit for you. Okay, well, that's going to bring our video to a wrap. Thank you so much for watching part 2 of episode 2 of the How to Get Started Streaming series. I hope you found this video helpful and enjoyable, and if you did, please like and subscribe below. You can always catch me when I'm live at twitch.tv/temperedchaos, and as always on Instagram, Twitter, and here on YouTube at The Nor You Know. Don't forget, I'm going to post a link to the Discord at the bottom of the video where you should come join, chat with like-minded individuals about this video, the series, or any other content that you wish. And until next time, take care.